Hello, and welcome to the St. Louis Wildlife Project photo tagging tutorial. My name is Paul Elliott, and I am the Community Science Coordinator for the St. Louis Wildlife Project. In this video, I want to give you a brief background into our project, as well as an in-depth look at how we use photo tagging to collect our data. For those who don't know, the St. Louis Wildlife Project is a partnership between the University of Health Sciences and Pharmacy and Washington University's Tyson Research Center. Our goal is to quantify biodiversity and understand wildlife ecology in the greater St. Louis area. Our project monitors wildlife in 33 sites across the greater St. Louis area, from our most urban site here at the Gateway Arch, all the way out to our most rural site here in Route 66 State Park. By collecting data from such a wide variety of habitats, we are better able to evaluate how landscape features and human development impact wildlife composition. Finally, I'd like to mention that we are a part of the Urban Wildlife Information Network. This is a larger partnership of cities across America and Canada, started by the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago. This is currently the largest international study of urban wildlife, and it is still growing. By partnering with the Urban Wildlife Information Network, we are able to share our data with all of our partner cities and ask large-scale questions about the interaction between human development and wildlife populations. So now, on to the meat and potatoes of the project. At each of our 33 sites, soon to be 34 sites, we have one of these cameras set up on a tree or post. This is a motion-censored camera that takes photos of any animal that walks in front of it on a 30-second timer. And this is a fatty acid lure tablet that centers the animals right in the center of frame. These tablets are safe for the animals to use, and it is a protocol that we developed from Lincoln Park Zoo in the Urban Wildlife Network. Once these cameras have been set up for about a month, we will retrieve the memory cards from the cameras, along with the hundreds or thousands of photos that they contain. Once the photos are recovered, we rely on our wonderful team of volunteers to tag whatever wildlife they see present in this photo. Each photo is tagged by two different volunteers. If the volunteers agree on what animals are present in the photo, that photo will be research grade and it will be sent off to a larger database. If the two disagree, the photo will be sent to a full-time staff member like myself, and we will validate it, make a final judgment, and send that one off as well. This system allows us to rely a lot more heavily on our volunteers without forcing them to have a huge amount of background in urban wildlife ecology. So this is what the page looks like when you're actually tagging photos. On the left, you will see the photo in question. This one was taken at Tyson Research Center and shows a little armadillo here next to this tree. On the right is the user interface where you will enter the name of the species, the number of individuals, and any details that pertain to that animal. For species, we would type in armadillo. You don't need to know the scientific name. Armadillo is fine. Number of individuals would be 1, and details aren't applicable in this situation. We will go more in depth on this user interface here in a moment. But first, we're going to look at some of the problem species we have. These are species that, while common, cause some disagreement in volunteers. There are some trickier aspects of their identification, so we're going to go over them quickly just to get ahead of the curve. So squirrels are probably the animal you'll be seeing the most often in real life and in photo tagging. Our area has 2 species of squirrels, eastern gray squirrel and fox squirrel, although you can see we've added a third option for our photo tagging program. If we have a picture of a squirrel in daytime, the picture is in color, we can identify it to one of these 2. An eastern gray squirrel will have a white belly like this, and the halo of fur around its tail will be a bright white. It's a very distinctive feature for the eastern gray squirrel. For the fox squirrel, which is our more rural species, the halo around its tail is kind of an orangey black, and while we can't see it in this photo, there's no white belly. If you see a white belly or a white halo, it's an eastern gray squirrel. If it's that orange, it's a fox. If we have a nighttime photo, it's black and white or grayscale, we could make assumptions, but we can't really confidently say one way or the other which species it is. So we will always just say squirrel, cannot ID, and we won't go any further than that. Next up, we have possums and raccoons. Again, these are two of our more common species. In a photo as clear as this one or this one, it's pretty easy to tell them apart. The problem is not all of our photos are this clear, so we need to look at more particular features of each species. Possums have a much narrower face and this sort of rat-like tail, and their fur is a very light gray. Raccoons, have a wider face, that bushy striped tail, and the black mask. But what I think is the most distinguishing feature between these two animals, and the one that will be most useful when the photos aren't clear, is the rump of the raccoon is a lot more rounded. It's higher up into the air compared to the possum, which is kind of flat-backed, goes straight into the tail, no real rounded rump. If you just see a shape in the grass, this is usually the feature that will tell you one way or the other. Next, we have the canids. These are two of the best photos we have of red foxes and coyotes. Typically in our photo tagging, they will not be this clear. They'll look more like this. These animals are most active around sunrise, sunset, or at nighttime. So we'll usually get black and white photos of them. For the fox, a distinguishing feature is the legs and the tail will be a darker color than the rest of the body. Kind of looks like they're wearing socks. Compared to the coyote, the leg is the same color as the body, but the most distinguishing characteristic of the two is this black tip at the end of the coyote's tail. If you see that tip, you can be very confident it's a coyote. Foxes will not have that. Next up, we have what is likely our most common species, the species that is most active in front of our cameras, and that is the human species. Our cameras are set up in a city, so we get a lot of the local denizens of St. Louis triggering our cameras going about their day. As I showed earlier, in our interface, you have the option to add details to any tag, and for humans, this is especially applicable. Some of our most common examples, for this fellow here, he is mowing a lawn, so we have the mower detail that we can add to people. In addition, we know lawnmowers are not a living thing, they are not animals, but they do have a very large impact on local ecosystems. So we will tag the lawnmower as an individual as well. This photo gets human, mower, and lawnmower. This photo has a human, no particular details getting added to him, but he does have a domestic dog. Domestic dogs are their own species, and they also have a lot of details that can be added to them. So it's always important to check the details tab to see if anything is applicable. For this little fella, we've got leash. He is on a leash. Finally, we have humans that belong to our research crew. This is my boss, Beth Biro, and in this photo, she is taking down a camera. You don't need to know what all of us look like. That would be a very big ask. But if you see someone tampering with a camera, especially at the beginning or end of a photo group, it is likely a member of our crew, and you can add the Our Crew detail. So those were only a few of the species you will be seeing as you tag photos for our project. But we recommend before you officially start tagging, you read up on all the other species you'll find in this area, as well as some of the defining characteristics that help you identify them. To do that, you can go to our website, stlwildlifeproject.org, go to Get Involved, click Community Science, and here you can click Training Materials. Now, if you click this link, it will ask you for a password. And that password will be Lynx Rufus. LYNXRUFUS. That is the scientific name for the bobcat. If you forget it, that password will also be shown again at the end of this video. So make sure you write it down. You can always ask me if you forget it. It will not ask me for the password right now because I am one of the owners of the website. So from here, you can go to the Animal Identification User Guide or the manual that walks you through how to use the software. From here, you can click on any of these links, see what defines these animals. You can use it to get started. It's also great as a refresher. It's not going anywhere. Finally, I'd like to walk you through an actual photo group on our website. To access your photo groups, you'll go to urbanwildlifenetwork.org and you'll hit Classify here on the left side of the screen. Here you can see all the photo groups that have been assigned to you, the number of photos that are in that group, and these first 4 characters at the beginning tell you where those photos were taken from. This one is taken at Tyson Research Center, the 3rd site there. This is not important for you to know, but sometimes it's fun to add a little background. You're always welcome to ask me where these photos come from. But for the purposes of this video, we will be tagging from Tyson Research Center. So you hit Classify. Once it loads, you can see your photos. This photo should look familiar. It is the same armadillo from earlier. So as we said before, we're going to type in armadillo. There is exactly 1 armadillo in this photo, so we'll leave that at 1. There are no details to add, so we'll hit NA. Then I will hit Save and Next. This is the exact same armadillo. We could go through that process again, type it out, 1 individual, or we can hit Use Previous Photos Tags. So I'll do that. The camera is motion censored, but after 30 seconds, if it is triggered again, it will take another photo. So you will often get a series of photos, all of the same animal, which makes this button very useful. Here we have a different animal. You can see the round rump that I talked about earlier in the video, that black face mask, bushy tail. This is a raccoon. 1 individual. You can see a list of details that we could add. I don't think any of them are applicable, so I'll hit NA, Save, and Next. We have another armadillo. In this particular site, the armadillo lives in a burrow just off camera, so we didn't get a lot of pictures of him. If, for instance, I thought this was a particularly nice photo of the armadillo, I could highlight it. This doesn't affect the data in any way. It just puts them it duplicates them in a special folder that lets the full-time staff see it, sets it aside, marks it as special so we can add it to promotional material, calendars, that sort of thing. So go crazy with the highlight photo button. It lets us see the photos that you think are interesting. It always makes our day a little more fun. Next, we've got something in this photo, but it's hard to see, so we can use the zoom photo button. Makes it a bit bigger. And we can see right here a squirrel, a little bit of the tail. It's hard to see, but there is no halo around it. Dark body, orange and black. This is going to be a fox squirrel. 1 individual, no details. Next. This is a raccoon based on the banded tail, round rump. You can almost see a mask there. So now this photo. There is an armadillo here, but let's say for a moment we didn't see it. It's kind of blending in. It can be hard to see. There are a few more options when tagging photos. We can say unknown. You can spell it right. Unknown. This acknowledges that you see an animal in the photo, but you are unable to identify it. If you tag it as this, it will go to a full-time staff member. We can take a look at it. We might not know what it is either. You don't have to stress too much about it. Your volunteers, we appreciate the work you do. It's totally fine to just say, Actually, I don't know what this one is. Another option, if I don't see anything in the photo, I can say it's empty. Cameras are motion censored, but animals aren't the only things that move in the world. There's always a strong gust of wind. It could be leaves. It could be shadows moving in a weird way. We do get a lot of photos that are just empty, and that's totally fine. If you get a lot of empty photos in a row, don't worry about it too much. It's likely just a trick of the light. In this case, though, this is an armadillo. He's right there. We can zoom in, see him a little better. We can hit save and next. So that wraps up this training video. If you have any questions and I failed to answer, here is my email address. That is paulelliott@woostel.edu. 2 L's, 2 T's. I've also posted the links to the Urban Wildlife Information Network tagging site. This is the site you go to tag your photos. Here is the link to our training materials, along with the password to access those training materials. So you may want to write these links down or take a screenshot of this slide. Either way, I want to thank you for your interest in this project. You know, the research we do would not be possible without our amazing base of volunteers. So I appreciate your continued support, and I hope this project brings you closer to the amazing animals living right in your backyard. Thank you.